Just pouring myself some TWG Earl Grey gentleman tea, and wanted to address why Jordan Peterson, Heidi Klum, and others are not going to be coming to Nomad Capitalist Live this year. I'm going to share some thoughts of what I think Nomad Capitalist is, a little behind the scenes, hopefully a little motivation for you on this episode of Nomad Capitalist, where we talk about real life as a nomad capitalist. One of the reasons why people often comment, you should have this person speak, you should have that person speak. I think like Peter Zeihan is someone who gets mentioned every once in a while. I may not agree with him on everything, but the reason that Peter Zeihan isn't speaking, quite frankly, is because we email about 400 people a year, and not everyone replies. In fact, a lot of them don't reply. I look at my entire business career, whenever things did really well, there was an element of volume, sort of cold calling to it. And so I think a lot of events go out and they're like, we want one guy, and no matter what it takes, we're gonna get that one guy. I came up with 400 people that I thought in some way might be interesting, and we contact them, and some of them get back to us, and they can't travel to Asia. We're having the event this year in Kuala Lumpur, September 25th through 28th. They can't travel to Asia, or if they have to travel to Asia, they want to charge you a bunch of money. But some people just don't reply. So for the people who are saying, you should have this person, you should have that person, sometimes the issue is that person just, doesn't engage. Maybe they're disorganized, maybe they just didn't want to come, who knows? But one of the things I wanted to do that kind of speaks to what I think Nomad Capitalist is about, because this year's event is going to be more capitalist, just as much nomad, less doom and gloom. That's part of why we're keeping it in Kuala Lumpur. We had an incredibly successful time there. The hotel is amazing. The service is great. It's about half the price for you, the end user, to stay in Kuala Lumpur than it would be in Mexico, for example, for a lower quality hotel. It's just an incredible bargain. And also, we get people from all around the world. We get the most diverse groups of people. We had people from all over Asia, not just expats, but people from Asia. That's the point of an event. You want to meet people. I do not want to have it in Cancun anymore, where you push away people from places like Asia or Europe or even parts of Africa. We had a few people where it's harder for them to come. Maybe they need a visa to come to Mexico, where Malaysia is like wide open to almost every country in the world. Very, very few people need a visa to come to Malaysia. I don't want it to be everyone's getting together and complaining about Biden, or everyone's complaining about Trudeau. Hey, listen, I might be right there with you, but I think it's time to talk about the solutions. And so this year we have more capitalists. I had a friend of mine say, you know who I want to hear from you? Steve Wynn. Because I went to him and I asked, hey, Jordan Peterson, I think the team, there's a possibility he could come and speak. And he said, and I was with all due respect to Jordan Peterson, he said, I see him a lot of places. I can see him on YouTube. What I want to hear from is people who are running global businesses. What do they do? So we got Tony Fernandez, CEO of AirAsia. They took that thing over for $1 million some years ago. And now it's what the hell, it's one of the biggest, if not the biggest airline in Asia. Tony Fernandez is going to be speaking at Nomad Capitalist Live. He is in Malaysia, and so it's very fitting for him to come. But you're going to hear a perspective about exactly what I've learned somewhat the hard way. We've diversified our business to where we love Americans. We love working with Americans, Canadians, Westerners. We have more non-Westerners than we've ever had before. There's an incredible diversity in that. There's incredible growth opportunities in that. And I think learning from a guy like Tony Fernandez, who's done it in a country other than where I've done it on the business side, is going to be incredibly valuable. And so someone like Jordan Peterson, I think imparts a lot of good lessons. I think Nomad Capitalist is about, you can hear that message. I want us to go to the next step. I want you to hear from people that are doing the stuff you want to be doing. Because one of the biggest things that I've done in my life that I think has held me back is, I'll just give you an example, Patrick Bet-David's new book, Choose Your Enemies Wisely. You want to have bigger enemies. If your enemy is constantly the politicians in the country that you are in, then that's why you think that going offshore means running away from something. I'm running to something, always have been. There's things about the country that I'm from that I don't like, but I think dwelling on that never leads to anything good. I'm not saying I never do it. I'm saying that the less I do it, the more successful I am, and I would like to help not only have a diverse group of folks at Nomad Capitalist Live, but I want to move past, here's the problem, to, okay, here's the solution. maybe you can take what Tony Fernandez is saying and you can apply that towards building some kind of business that has more Asian customers. Or you can hire people in Asia. Or you can learn what it's like to do business. Maybe you'll learn you don't want to do business in Asia. Maybe he'll turn you up. Maybe that'll be the lesson and you'll go somewhere else. Maybe you'll learn something about things aren't possible. But, I think that we want to bring unique speakers. For me, Nomad Capitalist Live is a curation of people that I think you should hear from. I don't agree with every single thing that every single speaker is saying. All right? People have this idea that if you come and speak, we're like BFFs. No, you need to hear from Nigel Farage. Nigel Farage just had problems with his bank accounts in his Western country last year. And my wife and I saw Nigel Farage not long before he spoke at our 2022 event. We saw him in Montenegro. He's looking for opportunities. Right? So you may not agree with everything he says. Why wouldn't you want to come and hear the perspective of someone who's been through some of this and hear what he's doing about it? Why don't you want to hear from frontier market investors? We've got 6 or 7 frontier market investors in all different parts of the world. Hear what they're doing. Doug Casey came in person once and remotely a couple times. People love his perspective. But I think the best perspective from Doug Casey is the countries that are on his radar. Jim Rogers spoke last year. What are the countries on his radar? Uzbekistan, one of the biggest ones. And yeah, TBC Bank in Georgia is doing a big job there. One of our speakers doing a big job there. There is potential in Uzbekistan. I'd much rather you be doing that than rehashing the same old stuff. And I think for me, it's all too easy to go back into the stuff that gets more eyeballs. But it's not healthy. It's not productive. I mean, we need to understand what the problem is. But once we know we've got a problem, let's not keep rehashing the problem. And so, why isn't Heidi Klum speaking at Nomad Capitalist Live? I think that people, and she's one on a number of a list of kind of avant-garde choices that I said, that person would be interesting. Celebrities who maybe have dual citizenship or who have businesses in different places, or they have, for some way, they lead a global citizen lifestyle. Angelina Jolie, another one, has a very exotic citizenship we've talked about before in Cambodia, has businesses all over the world. We won't hold it against her that she and her ex-husband Brad Pitt, they had that big business in France they're fighting over. She's truly a global citizen. She's a nomad capitalist. And I said, let's bring somebody like that because, listen, Peter Schiff spoke at our very first event. It wasn't even called Nomad Capitalist Live. Back in 2014, we put up the speech 10 years later. You can go back and look at that. But when I look at the events people have, you can see Peter Schiff speaking at a lot of places. That's nothing against Peter Schiff. That's saying that you don't have to come to Kuala Lumpur to hear Peter Schiff. You can go to any of the investment conferences in New Orleans or wherever else, and you can hear Peter Schiff. What I want to cultivate is people from all around the world. So we have Vusi from South Africa. Everyone in South Africa that I say, oh yeah, we love Vusi. Okay, let's hear from a real South African entrepreneur about what he's done and what the opportunities are. Because we've had clients who are in Africa and they do business there. And they're like, this is like playing on cheat mode compared to where you live. Like you can start, and that's what I've been telling you for years, it's pretty simple to start businesses here if you know what to do. So maybe you want to come and hear what to do from people from Africa, from Asia, from Latin America. That's what it's going to be about. And of course, we're going to talk about with our team how to lower your taxes, what are the latest second passport opportunities, including ones we don't really talk about here much publicly. We talk to the clients about them. But you're going to hear all that kind of stuff from our team. You're going to hear about how to build a global team. Hatia, who leads up our HR and recruitment efforts. Who else are you going to talk to who's like, oh yeah, we tried to hire in Peru and it wasn't as easy, but Colombia, that's the big one. We've been making a push into Latin America recently. And there's some countries that have been easier than others. Time zone perspective, language perspective, cost perspective. You're going to hear where's the best bang for your buck? Where else are you going to hear that? It's easy to theorize and romanticize stuff. She lives it every day. And she'll tell you, here's what we've succeeded and why. And here's what I learned. Rusadan manages our entire global structure. We've tried to, add different pieces and parts to the global structure, get different banks. You want to hear from her what actually works. It sounds nice to get a Swiss bank for your company. She's going to walk you through. We've been working on this with about 5 different banks. Some of them are difficult, some of them require this, some of them require that. It's easier if you do this rather than if you have that, so maybe you keep that in mind. I mean, there's so many different things that you want to be aware of. Like, that's what we teach you. And so I thought having someone like a Heidi Klum would give people a perspective. Having someone like an Angelina Jolie would have a perspective. Some of those folks are available, and quite frankly, for the size of event we have, the economics just wouldn't work. That's why Heidi Klum's not speaking. I've often wondered, I mean, we sold out, when we came back, we sold out the room in 2021, 350 people. And we had like people literally camping outside the hotel, like, please, if someone doesn't show up today, like, can I buy their ticket? And then we got, much bigger rooms going forward. We have grown, I think, every year. Maybe it didn't grow last year. And I think a few more people didn't show up who did buy the same number of tickets. So the shift to Asia was maybe a flattening. But, we've always had more space. Anyway, do I want to have a room with 5,000 people at some point so that we can the economics work for Heidi Klum to come? I don't know. We're not there yet. But I continue to want to find interesting people that you can learn from that are doing interesting international stuff. We're always going to talk to you about the latest tax strategies and, hey, this country's done something, it's not tax friendly anymore, this one is tax friendly now, and this passport's coming up, and this deal went away, and hey, here's the new changes on the Greek golden visa, and here's what we think you should know. We're going to do that. We're going to talk about the real world experience because we live this stuff, hire, run companies, do business all around the world. You're going to hear from me and my struggles. I'm giving 3 speeches. Wouldn't you like to hear from people who are also walking the walk in their own way? That's what I want more of. And that's what we're trying to put together more stuff on here publicly. Because I just think it's important. I think that continuing to complain, we'll probably always do a little bit of that to help people, bring more people into the tent. But you know what the problems are. The question is, do you want to solve them? I'm a big believer of treating the causes rather than treating the symptoms. If you're focused on the symptoms in your country and what's making it less than ideal for your business, your family, your freedom, your life, your happiness, whatever it may be, your money, then that's not going to work long term. You got to treat the cause. And that's what we're going to be talking about at Nomad Capitalist live with more people who are doing it. And we're talking about, do you know who is coming? Christina Kataman, who you see on Instagram. She's from Moldova. She lives in North America. She talks about the differences in relationships. You want to hear, go and watch my interview with her. You want to hear about, like, for all the people in North America who are frustrated in relationships or not having a relationship, like, she's going to talk to you about, hey, maybe where she's from is a place where people actually appreciate you. Maybe you're more masculine than you think, for example, and that was eye-opening for me. So that's going to be just a little sliver of it. How do you have relationships cross-culturally? How do you hire, build a business, all that kind of stuff cross-culturally? That to me is what's important, because that's the stuff that I've lived in my life. And what our annual event is really about is me curating people to tell you the stuff that I think you need to know so that hopefully it doesn't take you. This is my 18th year of researching this stuff. Cambodia came on my radar in 2006, and I wasn't really sure where I'd move or how I'd move or what it worked or, how does it work if you're an American and you move overseas, like how do you do your taxes? But 18 years ago, I started really getting into this stuff. As a kid, I was always interested, but I really started researching what can I do as an adult for myself 18 years ago, 2006. And I'd like to shorten that timeline for you. I don't want you to fumble and bumble for 3 years trying to hire people in the wrong places because there's a romance to certain places that maybe don't work. I've done some stuff that doesn't work as well. I'm changing things. That's the kind of stuff we talk about more at Nomad Capitalist Live. And to the extent that you can hear that from someone who's actually walking the walk, occasionally it might be someone who's an influencer or a celebrity, or you might not entirely understand why they fit. Sometimes it's someone like Nigel Farage. We have the former Prime Minister of Estonia who created the whole taxes on a postcard, and he created the e-residence program that's opened the country up. He's going to talk about that. You're going to learn, what does a country that does the right thing look like? You're going to have a chance to hear from him. Former Prime Minister of Malta, bringing in the Citizenship program, overseeing a very tax-friendly country within Europe. What does that look like? If you thought there was no such thing as a tax-friendly country in Europe and in the European Union, you're going to hear the difference, and you're going to see. If you live in the U.S. and you think, oh, nowhere, the West could treat you well. Hey, listen, you might be right, but at least they treat you better there. And so it's really about giving you those messages. And you're also going to hear from people who are actually walking the walk, whether it's entrepreneurs or our team who are doing all this kind of research. I don't want to keep rehashing some of the same stuff. And so there's been a number of names that have been thrown out there. Why don't you have this person? Why don't you have that person? So there's your answer. Nomad Capitalist Live, it's coming up this September, and generally every September. Kuala Lumpur is a place that I think is the best value city in the world. It may be a little bit further for some people to come to, but what you get is a really, from what we've seen so far, a really diversified, high-class audience where the people who do come from North America are really high quality, people who want answers. They're not there just to screw around. And obviously we've had great people all the years, but I feel like doing it this way pushes us to get the best people from all over the world, because Kuala Lumpur is closer to a lot more people with a lot more different views, with a lot more different expertise to share and a lot more interesting networking to be had than Cancun. I'm not saying we won't go back to that part of the world in the future, but we're really about capitalism on a global scale, not just talking to people in North America. We love North Americans. I'm from North America. I understand and I enjoy the conversations I have with people from where I'm from, because we, unlike most people where I'm from, the people who come to us, we're like-minded. We have great chats. Sure, it's easier to talk to an American sometimes than it is to talk to someone from Thailand or from Botswana. I mean, we have more in common, and yet, do you learn more from people you have in common with? So there's your answer. It's Nomad Capitalist Live. We're launching this on April 15th. We want you to come, and we're thinking about bigger stuff every year, not just the people you can find everywhere else. You're going to get a unique kind of guest and a unique kind of speaker and panelist teaching you stuff you can actually use to build your wealth, your freedom, and your lifestyle.